The string lights above the empty reception hall flickered like they were mocking me. The DJ cleared his throat, shifting awkwardly behind his booth as he looked around at rows of untouched chairs and perfectly plated meals no one came to eat. Before we begin, drop a comment and tell us where are you from and from which city you're watching our videos. And after watching the whole video, don't forget to tell us what would you do in this situation. Be honest. Tell me in the comments below. We read every comment. Let's begin. I stood there in my white dress, clutching my bouquet so tightly the stems bent under my fingers. My mascara was already smudging, but I didn't bother to wipe it away. What was the point? "Nobody's coming?" whispered Amanda, my best friend, and the only person who showed up. Her voice carried the guilt of someone who couldn't fix what was broken. I forced a laugh, though it cracked in the middle. "They're at Claire's engagement party. My mom said she couldn't be in two places at once. Guess she made her choice." The words sliced deeper than I wanted to admit. Claire, my younger sister, the golden one. She announced her engagement a week before my wedding date. My parents didn't ask me to move the ceremony. They simply told me they had more important things to attend to. I swallowed hard, lifting my chin, pretending like it didn't shatter me. But the truth? The silence of that room was louder than any rejection I'd ever faced. The DJ lowered the volume on the background music and mumbled, "Should I pack up?" "Yeah," I said, my voice barely more than a whisper. "Go ahead." Amanda reached for my hand. "You don't deserve this, Emily. Not you." I shook my head. "Let's just leave." But as I stepped toward the exit, heels clicking against the marble floor, I felt a tap on my shoulder. I turned, and a man in a dark suit stood behind me. His face was unfamiliar. Sharp jaw, gray streaks in his hair, piercing eyes that carried something unshakable. He didn't smile, didn't introduce himself. He just held out a box, small, black, with a silver clasp. "This is for you," he said, his tone low but firm, as if rehearsed. I hesitated. "From who?" "You'll find out," he answered, handing it over before walking past me, disappearing out the glass doors like a ghost. Amanda's eyes widened. What the hell was that? My fingers trembled as I opened the box right there in the middle of the lobby. Inside was a thick envelope stuffed with documents, and a single key with a tag that read one word: mine. I pulled out the papers, scanning them with wide eyes. Property deeds, bank account information, shares of a company I didn't even recognize, all transferred to my name. Amanda gasped, "Emily, this says you own everything. Who would—" But before she could finish, my phone buzzed violently in my hand. 37 missed calls, all from Mom. And then one text popped up on my screen. "Emily, where are you? Something's wrong with Claire. We need you right now." I froze, my chest tightened. After abandoning me on my wedding day, now they needed me? Amanda grabbed my arm. "Don't you dare go running back to them. Not after this." But my heart was pounding, torn between rage and curiosity. I looked at the key again, then at the documents in my hand. For the first time in my life, the balance of power had shifted, and they didn't even know it yet. I exhaled shakily and whispered, "They're about to find out who I really am." The hotel lobby buzzed with voices and clinking glasses as I stepped out of the car. My dress still trailed behind me like a ghost of the ceremony nobody had cared to attend. Amanda walked at my side, clutching the black box to her chest. We didn't wait for permission. We pushed through the revolving doors into the Monarch Hotel. The 20-floor ballroom glimmered with chandeliers, laughter, and music. People turned, startled, as I entered in my wedding gown. Their smiles faltered. My mother hurried toward me, her face pale. "Emily, thank God you're here." She grabbed my arm like I was a lifeline. I pulled away. "You skipped my wedding. Why call me now?" She swallowed hard. "Claire, there's a problem with her engagement contract. With the finances, they need your signature." "Of course," I said flatly. "You forget me until you need me." Dad appeared behind her, folder in hand. "Just sign this. It's routine." Amanda stepped closer. "Show us first." I opened the folder. Buried inside the neat legal language were hidden traps, power of attorney clauses, credit guarantees, obligations tied to my name. They wanted me to carry their debts. I snapped the folder shut. "No." A hush swept the room. Claire's fiancé shifted uncomfortably, his mother glaring at me like I'd ruined her evening. My sister's eyes filled with tears. "Emily, please," she whispered. "If you don't help, everything could collapse." I looked her straight in the eye. "It already has." And then, as if on cue, the same gray-haired man who had handed me the box earlier appeared at the far end of the ballroom. His calm steps cut through the music. He gave me the smallest nod. Everyone else stared in confusion, but I understood. The balance had changed. I turned back to my parents. "You taught me I wasn't worth showing up for. Tonight I finally believe you. So don't ask me to save what you built on lies." I walked out, Amanda by my side, the box clutched tighter than ever. For the first time, it felt like I was walking towards something instead of away. The night air hit colder than I expected as we stepped outside the Monarch. My heels clicked against the pavement, every sound echoing louder than the muffled music still bleeding from inside. Amanda squeezed my arm. "You don't realize it yet, Em," she said, "but you just turned the tables on them. For the first time, they're scared of you." I wanted to believe her, but my chest was still a battlefield of anger and ache. My family had humiliated me, first abandoning my wedding, now begging only when their image was threatened. And still, some broken part of me longed for their approval. But then my hand brushed against the box Amanda held, and I remembered the man's words. "Delivery confirmed." Before I could speak, the hum of an engine pulled up to the curb. A sleek black sedan rolled to a stop, and the rear window slid down. The same gray-haired man sat inside, his voice calm and measured. "Ms. Kerr, we don't have much time. I suggest you come with me." Amanda stiffened. "Why should she trust you?" He met her stare with a steady gaze. "Because she already has the key, and because her family is about to make a very desperate move." I exhaled slowly and climbed in. Amanda followed reluctantly. The door shut, sealing us into silence broken only by the engine's smooth growl. "Where are we going?" I asked. "South Ashland," he replied. "The warehouse your benefactor left for you. Tonight you'll see why." I clutched the key in my hand, the one stamped mine, the metal cold against my skin. "Who is this benefactor?" He didn't answer immediately. His reflection in the tinted window looked almost ghostly. "You'll know soon, but first, you need to understand what you've inherited and why your family fears it." Amanda crossed her arms. "Her family treats her like dirt. Why would they fear her?" The man allowed himself a faint, almost grim smile. "Because power doesn't always arrive with applause. Sometimes it comes in silence, like tonight." The car slowed near a row of industrial buildings. Most were dark, abandoned shells, but one stood lit at the corners, a low hum of electricity in the air. The driver stopped. "This is it," the man said. "Your property, your beginning." I stepped out, gravel crunching beneath my heels. My dress dragged through dirt, the once pristine fabric now streaked with gray. Somehow it felt right. The steel door loomed tall. My fingers trembled as I slid the key into the lock. It turned with a sharp click, and the door groaned open. Inside was not dust and emptiness as I expected. The lights flickered to life automatically, revealing rows of shelves, filing cabinets, and a polished desk at the far end. A single folder sat waiting, my name typed neatly on the cover. I walked forward, my footsteps echoing in the vast space. I opened the folder. Inside were photographs, documents, and bank ledgers that made my stomach tighten. Every page told a story, my family's loans, their defaults, their hidden debts tied to businesses they paraded as successful. And across each page was one name stamped in bold red letters: Mine Holdings, LLC. Amanda gasped. "Emily, your family's empire. It isn't theirs. It's yours." The man nodded. "The company owns the properties, the accounts, the contracts. And as of this morning, by condition of your marriage, you are the sole shareholder." I staggered back, clutching the desk. "You're telling me everything they built, all their pride, all their wealth, was borrowed," he finished, "and now it belongs to you." The weight of it hit me like a wave. The box, the key, the letter, it wasn't just a gift, it was a weapon. For the first time in my life, I wasn't the forgotten one. I was the storm they never saw coming. I looked at Amanda. My voice shook but carried steel underneath. "Tomorrow, they'll know what it feels like to be left with nothing." The folder trembled in my hands as I flipped page after page, each document peeling back layers of truth I'd never been allowed to see. My family's empire wasn't a fortress. It was a house of cards, propped up by silent loans and quiet acquisitions, all funneled through the company name that now stared back at me in bold letters, MINE Holdings. Amanda leaned over my shoulder, her eyes wide. Emily, they're finished. If you wanted, you could walk into that ballroom tomorrow morning and end every illusion they've been feeding the world. I pressed my palm against the desk, steadying myself. But why me? Who gave me this? The gray-haired man, James, stood with his hands clasped loosely behind his back, posture rigid like he'd trained for moments exactly like this. Your benefactor didn't choose randomly. You were always the intended heir, not your sister, not your parents, you. My throat tightened. Heir? Yes, James said, because you were the only one who knew how to survive without their wealth, the only one who could be trusted not to squander it. Amanda scoffed. And they treated her like garbage, like she was disposable. Exactly, James replied evenly. They underestimated her, which makes what comes next inevitable. The warehouse hummed with silence, the fluorescent lights buzzing faintly above us. I stared at the ledger again, heart pounding as the reality sank in. Every building, every investment, every property my family flaunted at galas and magazine interviews was now legally under my control. I could already hear the whispers, the gasps, the outrage when they discovered. For years, they called me the failure, the burden. Now, without knowing it, they had been living in my shadow all along. But part of me wasn't satisfied with just the thought of revenge. The old wound in me, the little girl who begged for her parents' approval, who was shoved to the back seat while her sister basked in praise, ached for something more. Closure, a reckoning. I closed the folder and straightened my back. Tomorrow morning, I'm going back to them. Not as their forgotten daughter. Not as the one they mocked and left behind, but as the one holding the strings. Amanda smiled, fiercely. Now that's the Emily I've been waiting to meet. James stepped forward, his tone calm but pointed. If you want to confront them, be prepared. They will deny. They will manipulate. They will beg. But once you show them proof, their desperation will turn dangerous. Power does not change people. It reveals them. A chill ran down my spine. Then let them reveal themselves, I said coldly. The next morning, sunlight cut through the blinds of Amanda's apartment where I'd stayed the night. My dress hung on the back of a chair, the fabric wrinkled, stained, no longer glowing white but gray with the weight of what had happened. It didn't feel like a symbol of love anymore. It felt like armor, tarnished but strong. Amanda handed me a cup of coffee. Ready? I sipped, my hands steady now. More than ever. We arrived at my parents' estate mid-morning. Their mansion sat smugly on its hill, the kind of home designed to intimidate. But today, as I stepped out of the car with the black box in my arms, it no longer scared me. A servant opened the door, surprise flickering in his eyes at my presence. Word traveled fast in this house. I was sure my mother already knew I was here. Sure enough, she appeared at the top of the staircase, pearls around her neck, her expression brittle. Emily, you shouldn't have come back after last night. Good morning to you too, I said, walking inside without permission. Amanda followed close, clutching a second folder of copies James had given us. Our proof. My father emerged from his study, his jaw tight. You embarrassed us yesterday. You humiliated Claire in front of her fiancé's family. Do you realize what you've done? I laughed, the sound sharper than glass. You mean telling the truth? Refusing to sign away my life? That's humiliation to you? Claire came rushing down the stairs, her silver engagement ring flashing under the chandelier light. Her eyes were red from crying, but her voice was sharp. Why are you here, Emily? Haven't you ruined enough already? I turned slowly, meeting her gaze. I didn't ruin anything. You all did that yourselves. But I came back to finish it. Amanda stepped forward and dropped the folder onto the dining table with a dramatic thud. The papers spilled out, contracts, ledgers, deeds, transfers. My parents froze, their eyes darting across the documents. What is this? My mother whispered. Proof, I said softly. Proof that your fortune, your homes, your investments, they were never truly yours. Every loan, every credit line, every asset was tied back to one company, Mine Holdings. My father paled but tried to maintain his authority. That's absurd. That's false, I cut in, pulling the deed from the top of the pile. Because according to these documents, Every property listed under your name has already been transferred. And guess whose name replaced yours? I held up the deed and let the silence linger. Mine, I said firmly. Claire's hand flew to her mouth. My mother stumbled back into a chair, clutching the edge as though the ground had dropped beneath her. My father's face turned red. Impossible. This must be forged. Do you think you can walk in here with a stack of papers and scare us? You've always been weak, Emily. Always beneath us. That hasn't changed. But even as he spoke, his voice shook. He knew. Deep down, he knew. Amanda leaned against the table, arms crossed. Funny, isn't it? The weak one now owns every piece of your empire. I stepped closer to my parents, lowering my voice so they had no choice but to hear every word. Yesterday, you left me standing alone in a wedding hall, humiliated, abandoned. Today I'm standing in your house with the power to take it from you with one phone call. Tell me again, who's beneath who? The silence that followed was heavy, suffocating. Claire finally broke it, her voice desperate. Emily, please, don't do this. I didn't know. I turned to her, my expression cold. You knew enough to laugh at me, to let Mom and Dad treat me like I was nothing. You knew enough to stay silent. Her eyes filled with tears. I'm sorry. Sorry doesn't change the truth, I cut in. Everything you thought you had now belongs to me. I dropped the box onto the table, the sound echoing through the hall like a gavel striking down a verdict. For the first time in my life, they weren't looking at me like I was invisible. They were looking at me like I was the storm about to swallow them whole. And I intended to. The silence after I dropped the box was thick enough to choke on. My mother's hand shook as she reached for one of the documents, her pearl bracelet clinking against the wood of the table. Her eyes darted across the words, pupils shrinking, lips parting as the reality hit her. This isn't possible, she whispered. Everything here, this company, this can't be real. It's real, I said, my voice low, deliberate. You wanted me invisible. You wanted me weak. But you didn't notice someone else was watching. Someone who chose me instead of you. Last night, you abandoned me at my own wedding. This morning, I inherited everything you built on lies. My father's fist slammed down on the table. No! You're nothing but a pawn. Someone is using you to get to us. His voice cracked, rage bleeding into panic. I stepped closer, locking eyes with him. If I'm just a pawn, why are you shaking? Amanda smirked at my side, arms folded. Because pawns don't hold the deeds to mansions, companies, and bank accounts. Queens do. Claire gasped, tears streaking her mascara. She reached out to me like a child begging for mercy. Emily, please, don't take everything. Just let us keep the house. Let me keep my engagement. I swear, I didn't know. I cut her off with a sharp laugh. Didn't know. Claire, you knew every time you smiled while Mom called me a failure. You knew when you stayed silent while they mocked me. You knew when you stood in that ballroom last night, celebrating while I was left alone in a wedding dress. Don't you dare say you didn't know. Her hand dropped like dead weight. Mom tried again, her voice trembling but still reaching for control. Emily, we're family. Families fight. They betray. But they always forgive. We can fix this. We can share. The word share made my blood boil. I leaned forward across the table until she flinched back. You never shared anything with me. Not love, not respect. Not even a seat at your precious table. Why would I share now? Dad tried to recover his authority, but his voice came out brittle. You wouldn't survive one day without us. That company, those accounts, you have no idea how to manage them. I straightened, lifting my chin. Then I'll learn, just like I learned how to survive without your money, without your help, without your approval. The difference is, now I don't need you, but you... I jabbed my finger toward him, toward all of them. You need me. Their faces told the truth. Fear, not of losing me, but of losing everything they thought was untouchable. Amanda pulled out another envelope from her bag and slid it across the table. In case you think this is some bluff, here are certified copies, notarized, irrefutable. My mother stared at the papers like they were knives. My father's knuckles went white, gripping the edge of the table. Claire crumpled onto the couch, sobbing quietly into her hands. And for the first time in my life, I didn't feel small in this house. I felt enormous. I turned to leave. Emily, my mother cried out. If you walk out that door, you'll regret it. I paused at the threshold, my hand on the doorframe. I looked back at them. This family that had raised me in shadows, discarded me like an afterthought, and then begged when their empire cracked. No, I said calmly. The only regret I have is wasting years waiting for you to love me. The words hung in the air like thunder. Amanda opened the door, and sunlight spilled across the polished marble floor, bright and unforgiving. I stepped through, heels clicking, heart steady, my future finally mine. Behind me, I heard my father's voice break into a guttural roar, my mother's sobs mixing with Claire's gasps. But I didn't turn back, not once. Outside, the gray-haired man, James, stood by the car, holding the door open. He bowed his head slightly as I approached. "Ms. Kerr," he said, "it begins today." I slid into the car, the black box still clutched tight in my arms. Amanda followed, her smile fierce, her eyes bright with something I hadn't seen before, pride. As the engine rumbled to life and the estate grew smaller in the rearview mirror, I exhaled, my voice, barely above a whisper, but filled with power I never thought I'd hold. They called me nothing. Today I became everything. The car pulled away, carrying me not just from a house, but from a lifetime of chains. And for the first time, the horizon didn't scare me. It waited for me.